Right now, as you listen to this video, 3 billion people are using a website that didn't exist when most of them were born. They scroll through it on their phones. They share photos of their children. They argue about politics. They sell products. They fall in love. They lose loved ones. They live, in part, inside this digital world. That website is Facebook, and it was created by a college student in a small dormitory room over a few weeks with almost no money. His name is Mark Zuckerberg. How does one young man, barely 20 years old, build something used by half the people on Earth? How does he become one of the richest people in human history before age 30? And what kind of person stays calm, focused, and disciplined while controlling so much power? The answer is more interesting than you might expect. Because Mark Zuckerberg is not loud. He is not dramatic. He doesn't shout. He doesn't perform. He is quiet, awkward, intensely logical, and deeply private. He is, in many ways, the opposite of every famous billionaire you have heard about. So today, we are going to explore his story, step by step, honestly, including the parts that are uncomfortable. And while we explore, you will also be practicing your English. So relax. Listen to the rhythm. Follow the main ideas. Each time you return to this video, your understanding will deepen. So, let's begin. Our story starts in 1984, in a small town called Dobbs Ferry, in New York. A baby boy was born to Edward and Karen Zuckerberg. They named him Mark Elliott Zuckerberg. Edward worked as a dentist. Karen worked as a psychiatrist. They were intelligent, calm, and patient parents. They believed deeply in education. They wanted their children to think for themselves. Mark had 3 sisters, Randy, Donna, and Ariel. The Zuckerberg house was full of conversation, books, and questions. Dinner table debates were common. Curiosity was encouraged. From a very young age, Mark was different from the other children in his neighborhood. He was quiet. He was thoughtful. He preferred reading over running outside. He liked puzzles. He liked patterns. He liked solving things. Most importantly, he had a deep interest in computers. When Mark was around 10 years old, his father bought him his first computer. For most kids, this was a fun toy. For Mark, it was a window into a whole new universe. He didn't just want to use the computer, he wanted to understand it. So he started learning to write code. At first, he learned the basics from books and simple software. Then, his father did something very wise. He hired a private programming tutor for Mark. The tutor's name was David Newman. He visited the Zuckerberg house once a week. He gave Mark advanced lessons in computer programming. David later said that teaching Mark was challenging, not because Mark was slow, but because Mark was so fast. He learned new concepts in minutes. He asked questions David could not always answer. After a few months, David admitted that Mark was already a better programmer than most professionals. This was when Mark was 12 years old. Mark used his programming skills in creative ways. He built a small messaging program for his father's dental office. It allowed the front desk to send quick messages to the back rooms. He called it ZuckNet. It was, in many ways, a tiny version of what would later become Facebook Messenger. He also built simple games for fun. He asked his sisters to draw characters. Then, he turned those drawings into computer games his friends could play. Already, you can see something important about Mark. He didn't just love technology. He loved using technology to connect people. In high school, Mark attended a famous private school called Phillips Exeter Academy. It was a school for very talented students. Many of the graduates went to Harvard, Yale, or Princeton. Mark stood out, even among brilliant students. He was excellent at math. He was excellent at science. He was also surprisingly skilled at classical languages. He could read ancient Latin and ancient Greek. Why did this matter? Because it shaped how Mark thought. He didn't just see the world as numbers and code. He also saw it through history, philosophy, and human relationships. This combination would later affect every decision he made at Facebook. During his senior year of high school, Mark and a friend built a music software called Synapse. The program studied your listening habits. Then it suggested music you might like. Today, this sounds normal. Spotify does this, YouTube does this, Apple Music does this. But in the year 2002, no one was doing it. Mark and his friend offered Synapse for free. Big companies noticed. Both Microsoft and AOL tried to buy it. They offered around $1 million. They also offered Mark a job worth even more. Most teenagers would have said yes immediately, but Mark refused. Why? Because he wanted to go to college. He wanted to study. He wanted to keep his independence. He didn't want to work for a giant corporation at age 18. This decision tells us something important about Mark. He was not motivated by money, not yet. He was motivated by curiosity, by freedom, by the desire to build something that was truly his own. In the fall of 2002, Mark started at Harvard University. He studied computer science and psychology. This combination, again, was meaningful. Computer science taught him how machines worked. Psychology taught him how humans worked. He wanted to understand both. Life at Harvard was intense. Classes were difficult. Professors were strict. Students competed fiercely. Many of them came from rich, powerful families. Mark was different. He wore plain t-shirts. He wore Adidas sandals. He didn't care about fashion. He didn't care about parties. He cared about ideas. But he had a strange social problem. He was incredibly smart, but socially shy. He didn't always know how to talk to girls. He didn't always understand jokes. He sometimes seemed cold, even when he was simply thinking. During his second year at Harvard, in 2003, Mark did something that would change his life, and also nearly destroy it. He built a website called FaceMash. The idea was bad. Honestly, it was a bad idea. He took photos of female students from the Harvard website. He placed two photos side by side. He asked visitors to vote on which woman was more attractive. He built the whole website in one night. He stayed up until early morning. He drank too much. He posted angry, immature things on his blog. Within hours, thousands of Harvard students were using the site. Harvard's internet servers crashed because of the traffic. The next day, female students were furious. The school's administration was furious. Mark was almost expelled. He was placed on academic probation. He had to apologize publicly. This was an embarrassing moment in his life. He had broken privacy rules. He had hurt many students' feelings. He had used technology in a harmful way. But here is something interesting. He learned from it quickly. He realized that the internet's power to connect people was incredibly strong. He also realized that if he ever wanted to build something big, he needed to do it in a way that respected users, not insulted them. A few months later, in February 2004, Mark sat in his Harvard dorm room and started writing code for a new website. This time, the idea was simple, positive, and powerful. A website where students could create a profile, add photos, connect with classmates, share information, all within the safe community of Harvard. He launched it on the 4th of February 2004. The original name was the Facebook. Within 24 hours, more than 1,000 Harvard students had signed up. Within a month, half the school was on it. Mark added two friends to help him: Eduardo Saverin, who handled the business side, Dustin Moskovitz, who helped with programming. Soon, Chris Hughes joined too. The team expanded the Facebook to other universities: Columbia, Yale, Stanford. Within a year, it was at almost every major college in America. This was when Mark's life turned upside down. In the summer of 2004, Mark moved to California. He rented a small house in Palo Alto with his team. They worked all day and night. They wrote code. They ate cheap food. They slept on the floor. Sometimes they didn't sleep at all. It was during this summer that Mark met Sean Parker, a famous internet entrepreneur. Sean had co-founded Napster, a music-sharing platform. He was older, more experienced, and full of bold ideas. Sean advised Mark to drop the word "the" from the website's name. Just call it Facebook. Simpler, cleaner, stronger, Mark agreed. And Facebook was born. Sean also pushed Mark to think bigger. Not just colleges, not just America, the whole world. Mark listened carefully. He was always listening, always learning, always absorbing. By the end of 2004, Facebook had 1 million users. By 2005, 5 million. By 2006, 12 million. By 2008, 100 million. The growth was unbelievable. No website in history had ever spread this fast. But growth brought serious problems. Eduardo Saverin, one of the co-founders, felt that he was being pushed out of the company. He had paid for early server costs. He felt he deserved more credit. Eventually, he and Mark had a painful falling out. They later faced each other in court. The lawsuit was settled, but their friendship was never the same. Another problem came from two brothers at Harvard, the Winklevoss twins. Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss claimed that Mark had stolen their idea. They said they had hired him to help build a similar social network. They said Mark had delayed their project while building his own. This conflict became a major lawsuit. Eventually, Mark settled with the Winklevoss twins for about $65 million. Some people believe Mark was guilty. Others believe he was inspired, but did not steal. The truth is complicated. Both sides have arguments. What is certain is this: building something massive does not happen without conflict. Power attracts disputes. Money attracts arguments. Success attracts enemies. While facing lawsuits, Mark continued building. He moved Facebook's headquarters to a real office. He hired hundreds of engineers. He introduced new features: the newsfeed, photos, apps, pages, likes, comments. Each new feature changed how the world used the internet. In 2008, an experienced executive named Sheryl Sandberg joined Facebook. She had worked at Google. She brought business discipline. She built the advertising system that made Facebook incredibly profitable. Many people credit her with helping Mark turn Facebook from a popular website into a giant company. Then, in 2012, Facebook went public on the stock market. The company was valued at over $100 billion. Mark, at age 27, had built one of the most valuable businesses in history. But Mark didn't celebrate the way most billionaires do. He didn't buy fancy cars. He didn't fly on private jets to luxury islands. He continued wearing gray t-shirts. He continued working long hours. He continued living relatively simply. On the day Facebook went public, Mark did something unexpected. He got married. His bride was Priscilla Chan. They had met at Harvard. She was studying to become a pediatrician, a doctor for children. She was quiet, smart, and grounded. She didn't care about wealth. She cared about people. Many people believe Priscilla helped Mark grow as a human being. She encouraged him to think beyond technology, to think about education, about health, about kindness, about the kind of legacy that lasts. In 2015, Mark and Priscilla welcomed their first daughter. Her name was Maxima. To celebrate her birth, they announced something amazing. They would donate 99% of their Facebook shares to charity over their lifetime. That promise represented tens of billions of dollars. It was one of the largest charitable commitments in history. Some critics said it was a publicity move. Others said it was genuine. Probably, both things are partly true. People are complicated, so are their motivations. But while Mark was becoming a father and a philanthropist, Facebook was also becoming dangerous. In 2016, the world began to see the dark side of social media. False news spread rapidly on Facebook. Foreign governments used the platform to influence elections. A company called Cambridge Analytica was caught using millions of users' data without permission. Suddenly, Mark Zuckerberg was no longer just a brilliant young founder. He was the leader of a system that millions of people now distrusted. He was called to testify before the United States Congress. He sat in a small chair in front of senators. They asked him hard questions about privacy, about hate speech, about foreign influence. Mark looked uncomfortable. He gave careful, controlled answers. He apologized for mistakes. He promised reforms. But the public's view of Facebook had changed forever. The friendly college website had grown into something powerful, complicated, and frightening. To understand what happened, you need to understand something about the internet. When you put billions of people on one platform, you also put billions of opinions, billions of arguments, billions of conflicts, billions of secrets. No company in history had ever managed something this complex. There was no playbook, no previous example. Mark and his team had to invent rules as they went. Sometimes they got it right. Often, they made serious mistakes. The years 2017 to 2021 were difficult for Facebook. The company faced lawsuits, government investigations, and angry users. Some employees left in protest. Some teenagers blamed Instagram, owned by Facebook, for harming their mental health. Mark spent years trying to fix things. Some changes worked, some did not. The criticism never fully stopped. Then, in 2021, Mark made a surprising decision. He renamed his company. Facebook was now part of a larger company called Meta. Why? Because Mark believed the next great wave of technology was something called the metaverse. A virtual world where people could meet, work, and play in three-dimensional digital spaces using special headsets. Mark spent tens of billions of dollars on this dream. At first, results were disappointing. The technology was clunky. Many people made fun of him. Stock prices dropped sharply. But Mark, in his calm way, kept investing, kept building, kept believing. Then, around 2023, something unexpected happened. Mark pivoted hard into artificial intelligence. He hired top AI researchers. He released free, powerful AI models. He turned Meta into one of the biggest AI players in the world. By 2024 and 2025, Meta had transformed again. The company was now seen as a serious leader in AI, not just social media. The metaverse projects continued, but they were no longer the center of attention. AI was. This is one of Mark's strongest qualities. He does not get stuck. He learns. He adjusts. He moves forward. So, what kind of person is Mark Zuckerberg, really? He is calm. Almost too calm, some people say. He rarely shows strong emotions in public. In meetings, he listens patiently before speaking. He thinks before he answers. He is rarely the loudest person in the room. He is disciplined. He wakes up early. He exercises. He keeps a regular schedule. He has worn essentially the same outfit for years. Gray t-shirts, jeans, sneakers. He says he wants to remove small decisions from his daily life, so he can focus his mental energy on big problems. He is private. He rarely shares personal feelings. He does not give many emotional interviews. His family life is mostly hidden from public view. He values quiet. He is also strategic, maybe one of the most strategic minds of his generation. When he saw Instagram becoming popular, he bought it. When he saw WhatsApp becoming powerful, he bought it. When he saw that virtual reality might be the future, he bought Oculus. When he saw that AI was the next wave, he turned his entire company around. He makes huge bets. He plays the long game. But like every powerful person, Mark also has clear weaknesses. He has been criticized for being slow to respond to harm caused by his platforms. False information, hate speech, and mental health concerns have all become serious issues. Critics say Mark prioritized growth over safety. He has been criticized for being too quiet, too distant, and sometimes too cold. Some people feel he doesn't fully understand the emotional impact of his products. He sees data, He sees patterns. But he sometimes misses the human suffering behind those numbers. He has been criticized for being too powerful. Meta controls Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and now huge AI systems. Many people worry that any single person should not have so much influence over global communication. These criticisms are serious. They cannot be ignored. A complete picture of Mark Zuckerberg must include them, but supporters argue the opposite. They say Mark has connected billions of people who would otherwise be isolated. They say he has helped families across borders stay in touch. They say he has given small businesses around the world powerful tools to grow. They say he has invested billions of dollars in education, science, and disease research. Both sides see real things. Both sides describe real impacts. And both sides are right, depending on which part of the story you focus on. So, what can we learn from Mark Zuckerberg's life? Let me share 5 lessons that anyone, anywhere, can apply. Lesson 1. Start small, but start now. Mark did not wait for the perfect time. He did not wait until he was older. He did not wait for permission. He started Facebook in a dorm room with a laptop. Whatever you want to build, you can begin today with what you have, where you are. Lesson 2. Combine different fields. Mark studied both computer science and psychology. That combination shaped his thinking. The most interesting ideas often come from connecting 2 worlds that don't usually meet: engineering and art, science and philosophy, business and ethics. Look for unexpected combinations in your own life. Lesson 3. Stay focused on the long term. Mark plays a long game. He thinks in decades, not days. While others worry about short-term news, he invests in things that may take 10 years to mature. If you want to build something lasting, you must learn to wait, to stay patient, to resist daily distractions. Lesson 4. Adjust without losing your direction. Mark has changed his focus many times, from college networks to global social networking, from web to mobile, from mobile to virtual reality, from virtual reality to AI. He adjusts, but he never gives up on the big mission. Flexibility plus persistence is a powerful combination. Lesson 5. Accept that power comes with responsibility. As Mark has grown more powerful, his decisions have affected more lives. His successes have helped billions. His mistakes have also hurt many. The bigger you become in life, the more carefully you must use your influence. With great power comes great accountability. Now, before we end, let me share one final thought. Mark Zuckerberg's story is not a fairy tale. It is not the story of a hero with no flaws. It is the story of a real human being, with brilliance, with weaknesses, with ambition, with regrets, with deep curiosity, with moments of cold calculation, with moments of genuine kindness. In other words, a complicated, modern, human story. What makes him interesting is not that he became rich. Many people become rich. What makes him interesting is that, even with all that money and all that power, he keeps trying to build something new, even after criticism, even after public mistakes, even after years of difficulty. That persistence, that quiet willingness to keep building, is something everyone listening to this video can learn from. You don't need to build a global platform. You don't need to be a billionaire. You don't need to study at Harvard. But you can choose, today, to learn one new skill, to start one small project, to stay calm when others panic, to play the long game, to build something honestly, patiently, brick by brick, just like Mark did, in a dorm room many years ago, with nothing but a laptop and an idea. Before we say goodbye, thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for practicing your English. Thank you for opening your mind to a complicated, real story instead of a simple cartoon version. If this video helped you, please listen to it again. Each time, your ears will catch new sounds. Each time, your understanding will grow stronger. Each time, English will feel a little more like a part of you. Language learning is exactly like building a company. You won't see big results in one day. But every day, something small is being built inside you. Vocabulary, listening skills, confidence, pronunciation, patience. Don't quit. Don't rush. Don't compare yourself to others. Just show up tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. The small daily effort is what creates extraordinary results. I'll see you in the next story. Take care, stay curious, and keep learning.